What's up, whiskey enthusiasts? My name is Andrew. This is another whiskey review, and this is part 3, the final part of the blended Scotch shootout, as Brett and I are kind of fond of calling it. We're now, for the third time, we're taking a set of blended Scotches. We're reviewing them blind. We're giving some simple tasting notes, and then we're also ranking them, telling you if we think they're actually worth buying a full bottle of in order to be drank neat. So the first week we did budget blends. We took all blended Scotches that you could find for $40 or less. The second week we did peated blends across a price spectrum, and now this last week we're doing what Brett and I dub premium blends, which are blended Scotches priced in the upper shelf or premium category. Now it's not Johnny Walker Blue or Compass Box 3-year $300 whiskeys. We still wanted to keep it in what we think is an affordable price range for most of you, the typical whiskey enthusiasts. So none of these are over $80. In fact, I believe all 4 of these 4 can be found between $50 and $70 at retail. Now you'll notice, if you've already watched Brett's review, that I've only got 4 glasses here. And the other 2 past reviews were 5 whiskeys. Brett's review for these premium blends is also 5 whiskeys. Somewhere along the lines, I messed up and I thought I had Johnny Walker Green, and it turned out I didn't have Johnny Walker Green. So, if you want to specifically know about Johnny Walker Green, you're going to have to watch Brett's video. Now, you should watch Brett's video anyway, but you will not find any info about Johnny Walker Green here because I don't have it. Instead, what I've got for you is kind of a clash between Douglas Laing Scotches and Compass Box Scotches. We have got Compass Box Spice Tree. We have got Douglas Laing Timorous Beastie. Back to Compass Box, we have Oak Cross, and then the last Douglas Laing is Scallywag. I gotta tell you guys, I have absolutely loved doing this blended Scotch series. The response that Brett and I have gotten from you has been fantastic. We hope that you are learning not only about these whiskeys, but also learning about the benefits of blind tastings, how they can really help you to know what you like without biases of labels or brands or bottles or marketing or anything. And they're also just a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun to work with Brett to do something together, even though him and I are a couple states away. It's a really great way to build bonds and build friendships when you can actually do things like this together. So I would highly encourage it. I think I speak for Brett when I say he would as well. But let's get right into the tasting. I don't want this to take more than 15 minutes or so. Like the past 2 videos we've done, I'm going to give fairly simple, straightforward, surfacey tasting notes. When I'm focusing on a single whiskey, yeah, I can spend 15 or 20 minutes talking about it, get really in depth. Here, that's not the point. The point is to give a general overview of what I taste, how good I think it is, and then we'll do a comparison at the end. So, let's jump right into it. Whiskey number 1. Just lovely. Huge and heavy on vanilla, a little bit of subtle oaky spice. Really just pleasant, malty vanilla, sweet but not too sweet, enough of an oak and subtle spice background to just complement that sweet perfectly. It's a little bit of honey. It's not a super raw clover honey. It's not a super refined honey. It's just a nice mellow honey note in there as well. Maybe a little bit of almond. Overall, this smells just like dessert. It's simple, it's sweet, but not too sweet. Everything is concise and integrated, nothing clashes. This is a fantastic nose. On the palate, vanilla, cream, a nice, slightly dry, bitter oakiness provides a backdrop. There's a little bit more honey again, really similar to the nose. What really sticks out about this strain is that uh, everything it kind of bursts, it pops. It's not what I would call subtle. It's not, in your face, but everything is very clear. This might be the easiest dram to actually pick apart flavors. Everything presents itself very clearly. The honey, the vanilla, the malt, the oak. Just lovely. Oh my goodness. Big fan of whiskey number one. I'm going to do another sip actually. That's really great stuff. There's just the slightest hint in the background of some heather, some florals, something you commonly find in Speyside whiskeys. They're not too bitter, but they provide a nice little, slightly bitter kind of accent note to the sweet vanilla honey notes. That's a fantastic whiskey. All right, on to number two. This one, the nose, I would describe it as a lot denser. I wouldn't use the term darker, but heavier. Denser, heavier on the nose. A lot more of a thicker, almost like a heavy whipping cream. It's still pretty vanilla. But there's also quite a bit more fruit going on here. Like syrupy white fruits. Things like overripe pears. Overripe apples. Maybe a little bit. Just a little bit of purple plum in there as well. It's really, I would call it polished. It's very, if you want to use the word, I hate this word, but it's what I would call smooth, and dense, heavy, a good mix of those creamy notes and those white fruit kind of sugary notes as well here on the nose. On the palate, there's a pretty moderate tongue burn, and there's a little bit of an industrial solvent note. It's not overwhelming, but it is there. Not too detracting though. Not an overly complex palate. I didn't find the fruits on the palate like I found on the nose. Instead, it's a lot more of that heavy kind of lactose-laden vanilla note. There's a little bit of some spices in there. Maybe a little bit of nutmeg. There's a nice backdrop of oak. The finish maybe is actually the best part of this whiskey. On the finish, it kind of sweetens up. You get a lot more of a, instead of just like heavy whipping cream, more of a vanilla ice cream, a sweetened cream. In fact, sweet cream is probably the best way to put it. There's a little more of like a sweet candied almond that comes through on the finish as well, which provides a much needed kind of sweeter, sugary element to this one. Yeah, not finding the fruits on the palate really at all that I found from the nose, which is a little disappointing because it was a lovely nose. All right, on to whiskey number three. I, 'Cause, 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 This one is absolutely bursting with fresh white fruits. Fresh apples. Like I feel like I could even like discern a type of apple. It's red delicious apples straight up here. Fresh apples, white grapes, a little bit of apricot. It's almost a little bit sugary, you know, kind of like refined white sugar, apples. I'm really into this nose. I dig just the concentrated like apple explosion that I get here. It's not tart or sour, but it's really a sweet apple, like a red delicious, almost to the point of sugary. Oh, this one too, just spectacular nose with these fresh white fruits. The palate builds some really nice complexity, whereas the nose, fantastic as it was really apple forward and not much else. Sorry, my cat's trying to eat my bread. The palate really develops some nice, more complex notes. You get a lot more white grape. You still have the apples. You get a nice oaky backdrop that provides some bitter relief to the sweet fruitiness. It gets a little bit tannic with things like grape skins, almost a little bit of like a white wine note. Just a little. Oh, this is a great dram. The finish intensifies after I swallow. I feel like I've got a mouthful of apples. Wow. I'm not sure if I've ever had any whiskey, single malt or otherwise, that has such an apple note as I find in this guy here. Yeah, big fan of this one. This is the intruder. She keeps trying to eat my bread. There, now you've been publicly embarrassed, so get out of here. Can't help myself. She literally just stole the last of my bread and just took off under the table with it. Good thing this is my last whiskey. All right. Number 4. This one is a bit more solvent-like on the nose, similar to whiskey number 2. It's not as deep, definitely not as fruity. More of your classic vanilla malt grain forward here in whiskey number 4. It's a nice palate. It's thick. It gets a little bit more complex again. It's still pretty grain and malt forward, almost like cream of wheat cereal, if you ever had that. It's got a nice cream element to it, but you also get some white grape, more of a crisp, tart apple here with whiskey number 4. Yeah, overall, whiskey number 4 certainly not a bad whiskey. It's very balanced on the palate. Not too sweet, not too oaky, not super fruity. Um, my my qualm with number 4 is that It's not very refined. The flavors aren't very discernible. They're very muddled in whiskey number 4. I can't find clear flavors. The sweetness and the dryness, the oakiness, they all kind of muddle together, like they're confused as to what's supposed to be where. Overall, though, still tasty. So, let's do some ranking. I'm going to give I almost want to call 1 and 3 like 1A and 1B, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna call whiskey 3 number 1, whiskey 1 number 2, whiskey 4 number 3, and whiskey 2 will come in last here. So let's find out what they are. Last place, we have Timorous Beastie. I don't know if you can read those, probably not. Timorous Beastie coming in 4th place. Coming in 3rd, we have Brett is going to be so disappointed in me. Coming in 3rd, we have Scallywag. The 2 Douglas Laing blends, unfortunately, are coming in last and second to last for me. Brett likes to make fun of me because Brett is unapologetically not a fan of Compass Box generally, and I am unapologetically usually always a fan of Compass Box. Second place, we got Oak Cross, which means first place, don't even need to take the tag off, is Spice Tree. Now, what I will say about all of these blends is that all of them are worth drinking. All of these are very sippable. I would recommend you buy any of these, really based off of both my tasting notes and Brett's tasting notes. Find out which one sounds most attractive to you. Even though Timorous Beastie and Scallywag came in 3rd and 4th, they had great qualities to them. They are very drinkable. If the qualities I described sound like they're more to your liking, then pick one of them. If the qualities in the Compass Box whiskeys that I described seem more to your liking, then pick one of them. All of these are great whiskeys. For whatever reason, I seem to have an affinity for Compass Box. The great thing about doing these blind tastings is I can say that and know that it's not just because, I love John Glazer or I love Compass Box philosophies or whatever. I do, but tasting these blind, not knowing which of these whiskeys was Compass Box, and then finding out that my 2 favorites were Compass Box, that's the purpose of the blind tasting. This means now I've seen it repeatedly. Compass Box whiskeys come out on top for me blind, which means I'm going to be a lot more comfortable buying a new Compass Box whiskey when I don't know how it is, because generally I have had an affinity for those whiskeys. I can almost guarantee you, I haven't watched Brett's video yet, but I bet you that the 2 Douglas Laing whiskeys scored near the top in this tasting because Brett generally doesn't like Compass Box whiskeys for whatever reason. Anyway, I'll end it here because we're going on 19 minutes. Brett, cheers, buddy. I can't wait to watch your video. This whole series was a blast. We've actually already got another 1 or 2 ideas in the works later on to do more big blind tastings like this, but until then, we'll keep pumping out reviews. We love you guys, WBSE. You guys are the best. Have a great night. Cheers.